Yeah, so there are two main dangers with shorting, which I think the hedge funds were being completely reckless. The first thing is that when you short, so when you sell stocks that you don't have, the problem is that there is potential for unlimited losses. So when you buy a share, like as an investor, the lowest price that a share price can go is zero. When you short shares, the share price can go up hundreds, thousands, or even higher, percentages wise. So it means that your loss potential is unlimited. And that is very reckless for hedge funds, especially when they're dealing with people's money. And now that they become bankrupt, they're unable to give the money back to the people because they thought it's a good idea to pick on these companies that are not doing very well. The second danger is that there are a limited number of shares when it comes to shorting. So just like with when you buy shares, there's a certain number that you can buy. When you short shares, there isn't that security as there are with buying shares, which means that you can short more shares than they actually exist. And the biggest problem is that one of the hedge fund managers, Melvin Capital, they shorted GameStop, and they even shorted with more shares than were available on GameStop. And that's why they had to ask for a $3 billion bailout. And the problem is that not only can they they can't get out of their shares now. So if it's at $360 and they can only get out of a certain number of shares, but they can't get out of all their shares. Why? Because the shares don't even exist. So this was completely reckless for hedge fund managers, and I think that they need to add some security measures or circuit breakers or something to just prevent these occurrences from happening in the future. I do want to go to the next question. Mantis VR, do you have a question?
Um, I, is it okay if I respond to some of what you've said?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I find it interesting that you use the term reckless and not greedy to
Okay.
start off with. um, because I think if you was talking about everyday people, you probably would have used the word greedy. And I just kind of find that a little bit interesting. So first and foremost, let's just be honest.
Yes.
These big hedge funds have been bullying the little person for far too long, right?
Right, right.
This has been going on for too long. They've been manipulating. See, everything you described was from the hedge fund side. That's pure manipulation and being able to to be able to short a market with shares that you don't even have and you're kind of borrowing to short. That's manipulation. But when the little person does it, that's seen as like, oh, you guys are manipulating the market. You know, what what we're obviously seeing at the moment is a change in as they say, the old guards. You know,
Yes.
there's a change that is happening right now, and as someone that's heavily into cryptocurrency, personally, I can see in the future token shares being tokenized, and because even now, as a let's just, as they say, a retail investor, it's not everyone that can invest, but with something like, correct me from, in the case of GameStop, it was because it was listed with, is it Robinhood, if I remember
Yes.
correctly? It was
Robinhood,
listed on
AMD
Robinhood.
Trade.
So
Yes.
yeah, so a lot of retail investors were able to get involved, and yeah. So you said, like, in terms of it being obviously as well, like the moral dilemma behind that. I think if someone, at the end of the day, it's a market. Like, people can buy and people can sell. If what I'm selling, you are happy to buy that item, I don't kind of see the issue. I know that might sound a little bit horrible, but I
Yeah.
don't see the issue. At the end of the day, I think it's important for people to do their own research on what they're buying. I'm going to make an assumption here and assume that the people that bought the GameStop, the GameStop stocks, they didn't buy like huge amounts. They just bought like $100,
Right.
$200, basically amounts that they were willing to lose, basically, um, to keep a store open or to say screw the system, right?
Mm.
But like I said, I feel this bullying has been going on for way too long. These guys have insider information. We know that it's happening. These guys are using computers with using the hottest algorithms to know, to even to the point where I'm sure they're starting to use artificial intelligence to the point where they actually know what our reaction is going to be when something happens in the market. I mean, come on, that's bullying. That's That's the real manipulation happening.
All right. So you've mentioned a couple of things.
But anyway,
I'm not going to
yeah,
mute you just yet, Mantis. Uh,
yes,
okay.
sir.
Why I said the hedge funds were reckless and not greedy is because greedy is
Yeah.
where they want to profit in their pockets, which they do. Reckless is them being irresponsible for shorting a huge amount of money, of clients' money, that is now
Okay.
that is now locked. So yes, of course they're greedy. All
Fair
hedge
enough.
fund managers are greedy. I'm not going against that, but in that case
Yeah.
they were reckless. And even I don't know
Fair enough.
which person said it, but they said that anybody who shorts companies for clients share wise, they shrubbery companies, they are completely reckless and completely irresponsible. And
Okay.
yes, it is greedy. The Wolf of Wall Street, not Jordan Belfort, but the Wolf of Wall Street, which have always been hedge fund managers, have found loopholes, have used
Yeah.
algorithms, and have found ways to manipulate the market.
Yes.
But it has been done
Yeah.
mostly, mostly, it has been done on a legal basis, and that's just with money. When you put a lot of money
Well,
into a stock, into a share, there is legal manipulation where people will say, "Hey, what's going on? This guy put a whole bunch," when it's just a bunch of banks that are just transferring money from one bank to another. Okay, with
yes,
with
sir.
this revolution. So okay, now you're talking about cryptocurrency. I 100% agree that
Yes, sir.
the tokenization and tokens will be moving from shares onto the blockchain system, which is going to
Blockchain.
help a
Yeah.
lot because it's going to stop the manipulation. It's going to take away the middleman.
Exactly.
It's going to take away the brokerage and all the costs that are involved in the middle of it. And it's going to
Yeah.
give the people the power to buy and sell automatically, instantaneously, and without
Yeah.
knowing that the money is going into fat pockets of hedge fund managers. So as I said in the beginning, I know you weren't here, but basically I said that the third industrial revolution, the idea of restaurants, the idea of having these huge businesses with products and services is probably going to be a thing of the past. Similar to the world
Yeah.
of accountants, the world of stockbrokers. Soon those jobs are going to be taken away because artificial intelligence is going to take over, blockchain is going to take over, and also
Yeah.
the people are going to run their own businesses their way with at cheaper prices. I'm running my business, and already I feel like I'll never go back to a standard job, and also trading, obviously, which is works very well.
Cool.
But yes, there is a change, there is a disruption, and that's why I think it's important for everyone to be here, because you guys, either you're going to lose your jobs or you're going to keep your jobs, and you're going to be building your own businesses, your own empires, and eventually you might consider going limited. So if I was, so going back to the social dilemma, if I hold my shares and it went to that $360, isn't that the point of listing a company? For the share price to go up, so that if more people bought and more people had faith in your company, that the share price will go up regardless of the current problems. So the closing down stores, what if those things are temporary issues where they need new ideas to build it on, and they needed that kick which brought the share price up, the capital, And then they can use the profits to start distributing to shareholders, for shareholders to start taking it a bit seriously, for projections, for isn't that the point of listing on a stock market to begin with? You're not listing to sell the shares. You think Zuckerberg is even remotely thinking of selling the Facebook? No. Elon Musk, he's still working 10 times harder than all of us put together in this room. He's sleeping in a factory non-stop, and yet he is working. He's stressed, but he feels like he's the only one that can do the job, even though he's the richest man in the world. Going back to manipulation, very important for Dylan and for you, Mantis. And that is, I suspect that there was a illegal activity that took place with regards to GameStop. And why I say that is one reason. The share price did not gradually move from $45 to $350. It opened the next day at $350. That gap from moving from that and that level of volatility and liquidity is probably the main reason why the SEC and I'm sure even possibly the FBI will be analyzing this situation, because not only the hedge funds lost this round, the problem is this sets a precedent for a lot of companies going forward. And what if you are one of the guys who shorted the company just for a quick trade in for a couple of weeks? You know, I mean, I short 30% of the time. What if I was the guy that shorted that unfortunate position and then woke up at $360 when I shorted at 45? Portfolio is blown. Well, depending on the percentage you put in. So, Mantis, do you have any other questions? Yes, they're reckless and greedy, but mainly reckless towards their clients.
No problem. No, that I think that answers my question. Thanks.
Pleasure. Thank you for your honesty. Let's go to Boston GT. Question or answer the question behind us. If you
I had a question. If actually two questions. If the owner of GameStop wanted to sell all their stocks, he could, correct me if I'm wrong, they couldn't just sell them for $350 a share. They'd have to find somebody to buy them at that price. They'd probably end up having to sell it less than what the original was, right? And also my second question was, I'm sorry, I forgot what the second question was. But go ahead, you can answer that question.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's all supply and demand. And it has to be public knowledge. But if in the contract he can sell his shares whenever he wants, depending on whether there is volume available to sell to begin with.
I remembered what my second question was.
Yes.
Would it make sense for him to split the shares, to split the stock, like?
No, you can't just split the stock instantaneously. This is something that needs to go out on the SENS board, the Stock Exchange News Service. It needs to be discussed over a long period of time, a couple of months, to pre-warn the shareholders that there's going to be a stock split. And this also prepares the shareholders for the fact that their shares are they're either going to get more shares or they're going to get less shares, and the price is going to go up. But these are all decisions that are made within the public domain. And because GameStop was a one-day wonder, because it was, when I did a video on GameStop, if you guys are interested, head over to timonandmatti.com and put in your email address. And the reason is because tomorrow I'm actually going to be sending out the full video illustrated with the chart and all that that I did on the 28th of January. And I said that there is a good chance this price is going to drop tremendously. At the time it was 360. The next day it was 190. That was the next day. So it shows that there was major there's a lot of information that we don't know that took place purely because of those jumps. And I don't know if there was intervention within the inside information, but we'll still find out. I can't answer that. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Cool. Thanks, Boston. Let's go to, and I have extended this event for 12 minutes. Ali, how are you doing there?
I'm still here. I'm listening.
That's good. How are you doing? Have you got any questions?
No, they've actually been covered. Thank you. Awesome.
Awesome. All right.
Let's go to hand raises.
Let's go to Paul Laff.
Yes, I don't understand why we should preserve dinosaurs, but one thing people seem to not be concentrating on is the human aspect of this. You know, there's, people's pensions are at risk here.
Yes.
They're real humans. It's not just shares, it's people's lives that
Exactly.
are being affected.
Exactly. That's what I meant by the term reckless. And the thing is, Paul, is that the damage is done. These one-day wonders are going to ripple, for some people, a lifetime of damage. And that's why I'm saying that these hedge funds need to consider very serious measures to protect themselves, or the stock markets need to consider some type of circuit breakers to stop these jumps at such levels. They need to stop it, or else people will continue losing their hedge funds. However, for me, if anybody invested in GameStop for their pensions, there is a bigger problem than the money they're investing in, and it's rather the education as to what they're investing in. There needs to be more education, because people are oblivious to when they go to a hedge fund and the hedge funds say, don't worry, we are looking after your money, we've shorted this company, and they don't even have an idea of what that means. Like, we should have the choice to say, hold on, I'm 65 years of age or 70 years of age, I'm too old for you to be taking on these dangerous positions, and you have to consider, you got to be more risk averse. And if these hedge fund managers are not doing that, then yes, they're being reckless, they're being greedy, and the people should be more educated as to the hedge fund. You don't just magically make money because they tell you that you're going to get 20% a year. You need to be transparent. They need to be transparent. They need to show you exactly the baskets of shares or indices, commodities, whatever you're holding, and see the past of what they've generated, what they're doing, and see where you are in the risk aversion. So if people are losing their pensions because of GameStop, there is a bigger issue than shares and money, and that's their education level. They need to improve their education. Now let's go to Janjay Baxter. You have
just buy Dogecoin.
Sorry?
Just buy Dogecoin.
You Dogecoin. The Redditors are on Dogecoin as we speak. I don't know. I avoid volatility. I'm 33 years of age and I still don't go for those volatile stocks. So just be careful. And let me tell you this as a warning. Because a lot of people, why do you think a lot of people are now getting onto Reddit? Because they're saying, I'm going to get rich from these degenerates. Listen, these hedge fund managers, they might have been caught off guard, but they're going to fight back. They are a lot more awake. They are very clever. And they are going to make a lot of these Redditors bankrupt because they're following degenerates who are trying to crack the system. And yes, they are going to crack the system now and then, but is it worth the risk? Like, if you're super young and you're saying, whatever, I've got money that I can cut up, perfect, go and do that. But just know that that money that you can cut up can be tenfold more that you could lose. So it's not like going to a casino. You go to a casino and you lose the money you put in. In the stock market and investing, you can lose 10 times more than what you put in. You can blow your portfolio. You can be a very successful trader, make millions, and blow all your money overnight if you're thinking greed. Greed never works. I'm sorry. It's never, ever worked. DJAK007.
DJAK. Yes, I've had some experience day trading for the last year and a half, and I guess maybe that is a form of passion, if you want to call it that. And I've seen quite a bit of volatility in the markets. What I wanted to ask, first of all, I just wanted to respond to the last question regarding what you would actually invest in terms of long term. Would you not consider maybe a blue chip stock to be a little bit that's a little bit more secure than just a general stock, unless obviously it's a good solid stock, like Apple or Tesla or one of those large caps that right now are being very successful. So basically I just wanted to know your thoughts. And also I think, we've seen a lot of variation with BlackBerry lately and AMC. So I'm just wondering if Reddit also has their hands on those as well. And Kodak in the past, we've saw go up and down.
All right. I get so many. Those are the questions that I get like on a daily basis as to what should I buy, what should I invest in. Like, it's all down to your personality and what your risk aversion level is. Like, I can tell you, buy a blue chip stock, this is going up, and I've got one philosophy: buy high, sell higher. I don't have the philosophy of buy low, sell high. I really don't like that philosophy. If the market's going down, it's not going down so it can turn up. If a market's going up, it's not going up to turn down. Okay, even though the egotistical approach is that there is the bubble, it's going to come down. Listen, just follow the trend. Why do you want to be egotistical and want it to turn? Just enjoy the trend while it lasts, and then grab a little bit of the upside, grab a little bit of the downside, and appreciate it. But what's important to note is that with regards to buying and selling, I find it that the stocks and the sectors that you choose are cyclical. Because 4 years ago, if you said, Timon, what would you want? So let's say 6 years ago, if you said, Timon, what sectors would you buy into? I would have said retailers. And I would have listed a whole bunch of retailers. Now, the retailers have been going sideways for the last 3 years. So now that's out of my range. And now I look at the resources, and for some reason, resources are taking over and are hitting new highs. But resources had a gap of 8 years of sideways movement. So it's completely cyclical. Look at what the markets are doing. You can look at the projections and hold over 50, 60 years. But if you're like me, who invests only, when I only trade for under 35 days. If I invest for longer terms of 2 to 4 years. Okay? So, but also diversify your positions. If you're thinking of just buying BlackBerry or Apple, like, rather diversify your positions so that if these companies turn down, at least you have other companies that will move up. Have a little bit of commodities, hold a bit of gold, hold a bit of Bitcoin, hold a bit of retailers, technology. All those are, they work. But it's up to your personality.
Okay. And semiconductors are doing fairly well too.
I'll take a look at that. Semiconductors and renewable energy are going to be the star children soon, as people are more aware of the environment and geopolitics. Let's go to Kristen. Kristen, sorry, you've had your hand up for quite a while. Thank you for still being here.
I have to actually run out in a second, but I have maybe an ignorant question. and I apologize in advance because
There
I
is no such
really,
thing.
you know,
There is no such
I've
thing.
learned a lot. But isn't this like an artificial drawing up, like driving up of stock? Like, if GameStop doesn't take this as an opportunity to move away from the brick and mortar and digitalize and reinvest that money into their company, this is sort of a lost cause. You've driven up stock for the sake of driven up stock to really kind of stick it to the market. But what about all of those small people that have driven it up? I mean, they're just basically what you said, shredding money. So, like, if you got money to shred away, have at it. But I mean, they're really going to do a huge disservice if they continue on the path that they've continued, going back to what Paul had said earlier, is why are we so invested in keeping a dinosaur open who has already proven over the past maybe 10 years that they're not keeping up with the times. So I guess I'm a little lost. I understand the bigger part of it is they're doing it to really prove a point, like a bigger point. But back to like this very specific question, you know, if he didn't plan on doing anything, it would be almost ignorant of him not to sell it off and let somebody else reinvest that money in and do a service to the investors, those little guys that took a time out to invest in their company because maybe they believed in it, maybe they didn't, but you know, he's already shown that he's not effective in bringing his company up to where it needs to be. Right? I mean,
What is the question, Kristen?
so like I don't understand, like, what is the big deal of selling it off and letting somebody else have at it so it doesn't just continue to, like, won't it eventually crash anyway on its own if there isn't a big restructuring of what's going on?
Technically, yes. If you look at the share price, why they haven't evolved since the share price has gone up to 360 is because they can't do anything with that money unless they do sell the shares or if they consider something else. But the thing is, this is a short-term effect that has taken place, and now we will see over the next couple of months if shareholders start to push up the shares and value it differently in terms of where they believe it should go and what people should do with the money. But right now they are at losses. They declared their losses. They cut down stores. But I don't know, maybe Dr. Sam, you have something to say? Because, listen, Kristen, you brought up some very interesting points. And we haven't really heard the information of what the shareholders are doing with GameStop at the moment. What I do know is that it's at $225 still, which is just incredible. Wow. You'd think that it would just drop down to its valuation of the shares, but what it means is that they're still holding shares. They're not getting rid of them. They're not selling them. But what I suspected is that when the share price goes up so quickly, so fast, you get three types of movements. You either get a panic frenzy where the Redditors are like, damn it, this thing is now going to drop, sell, sell, sell. And they do the opposite. Okay. It's also called a short squeeze, which squeezed out all the what's it called? The shorters. They squeezed out all the shorters, and now the buyers are just holding. The other thing is that they might become scared that they're going to be all under investigation, because now everyone is going to be called and say, what was your intention of buying GameStop, if they have more inside information. So yes, this is going to go on for the next couple of weeks, months, and it's going to be the precedent that was set for the years to come. But it's going to be very interesting that now that we are within the knowledge, I mean, I've been in the knowledge for, or in I've been in the markets for so long, and now people on Facebook are sending me messages about GameStop. So for me, this is a very exciting era, because it means that they are interested now in the dynamics and the paradigm shift within the revolution of what's going on in the markets. As I said, I have never seen anything like this in 19 years. So this is really exciting. And it's great that we're all in this Dilemma Lounge today talking about it. Dr. Sam, yes.
Just to respond to Kristen, so I've lost the train of thought, but no. So remember that the transactions that are taking place on the stock exchange has nothing to do with the company. Those shares are being transacted between investors.
Yes.
The company is not selling its own shares. So any profits or any losses that are being made by the investors in that company. So yes, if the director has a few shares and the director speculated, the director in his or her own name would lose that money. But this share price of $350 doesn't affect the company in any way. The only way it affects the company is if the shareholders of the company sell their shares, they lose control.
Right.
So that's a very important thing to bear in mind. The other thing, I think DJ is gone. No, DJ is here.
Comment on Kristen's question or comment about what the company is doing with this stock price so high, rather than just it being a waste. I think they are actually doing something with that stock price being at a record high, or
they can't right now. Right now it's under investigation. So their hands are completely tied. The SEC is on it.
Right.
I think the FBI will be on it soon. For a share price to jump at that unsustainable level, based on their low fundamental and valuation, it would be very dangerous for them to do anything or sell their shares, because that is just sneaky. And every time a shareholder,
they wouldn't.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be selling their shares. They're issuing additional shares for the company.
All right. So you need to understand that when you all right, I got to explain this in another way. Let's say you have 100 shares in your company, okay?
Yeah.
And each share is $10.
Yeah.
And you want to add another 100 shares, right?
Yeah.
So you throw 100. So you throw another 100 shares into the pool of shares. The shareholders are automatically told that they will be getting that their shares will now be worth $5.
No, that's a stock split. That's different than what I'm talking about. So what you're talking about is a stock split where everyone gets double the amount of shares and the stock price drops by half. Yes. What I'm talking about is issuing debt on from a company and issuing additional shares based on the debt, and the company pays back that debt through the stock.
I'm not sure about that.
I'm not like 100.
Maybe in America they can do that. I've never experienced that here where I am.
Yeah, I mean, they do this all the time to raise money, because usually a company, after the initial IPO, right? The IPO has a certain number of stocks.
Correct.
But if they need additional money, there's a second offering, and there's additional offerings with additional more stocks available.
I have seen that where they go private and then they go limited again with another IPO. But listen, these are all in talks over a couple of months. This is not something that can be done in a day.
Yeah.
The shareholders need to
No, I'm not saying about that. Yeah, but I think...
And so they can't do anything now with this GameStop debacle because of such short-term notice. This is something that would have been to the shareholders' knowledge for the last 6 months.
Yeah, but because it's so high, they can start planning
Yes,
a month or two, saying we
absolutely.
want to.
They can,
Yeah,
yes, they can do that because
yeah,
because even though they know that the valuation of the shares is around $5, and yet the share price continues to stay $200, means that absolutely they may take consideration into the actions into the future. But first, the investigation needs to take place. There's the SEC needs to call everyone that bought shares in GameStop, and they will call everybody. I've had the SEC call me once upon a time, even though I was losing money, and I was like, you guys should be calling the people that gained money, not lost money."
yeah.
All right, cool.
But yeah,
We've only got a few minutes left, but I just want to go to Dylan. Do you have a question?
Actually, it's a comment. Could you do a social dilemma on blockchain where the question sort of explains what blockchain is? Because I think it's the future. People think it's just Bitcoin, but it's so many things.
That's not a dilemma. That is an entire new event. I actually did host multi-trader events for free on Altspace for a while, and they did great. And maybe I'll consider it in the near future. Ali even went to a few. And I did definitely discuss blockchain. If you go to my YouTube at multi-trader, you'll see Altspace multi-trader, and we discussed full on with blockchain. It was a good 2 hours, so you can actually go and watch that seminar or webinar, whatever you want to call it, the discussion event, and all of them. You can go to multi-trader. Just go to the Facebook group multi-trader and the Facebook page multi-trader, and then you'll get all of the videos. And if you have any information, but thanks, Dylan. Let's go to Yellow Majesty.
Thanks. I have a very stupid question, but before I ask that, I just want to comment the blockchain idea. I once went to a research conference with over 200, 300 people from various parts of the world within the field of information systems attending the conference, discussing blockchain, and there wasn't a consensus about what blockchain was or is, for that matter. So I think Dylan had a good point explaining what that is. To my stupid question, Timon.
Yeah.
And this is probably my last question, then I will drop off. So before I ask that question, I just would like to thank you for your generosity in extending the time and sharing all this wisdom, because these are important stuff you have been talking about. Very interesting, and I'm very thankful for that. Usually you take a fee or two for these kind of talks, so we got it for free. That's nice. My question is, who is actually going to benefit on the implications of this phenomenon with GameStop?
I would say short term, it's the shareholders that, or the derivative holders that bought GameStop, went to $360, sold it. They benefited whatever they got from that. The bigger benefit is with the revolution, that this sets a precedent for now the guys to follow certain communities to possibly profit in the short term before the hedge fund managers wake up and start putting measures within it. And a lot of people are taking advantage now of these degenerates. And I'm sure you read it. People that were never shareholders, and all of a sudden they thought, "Ooh, I just got to follow these bunch of simpletons, and I'll make money," as most people do, because they don't want to follow the professors anymore. They want to follow the average, authentic person who's made it in this dog-eat-dog world. So 2 people, those that are benefited are, well, 3 people. Those that benefited are those who sold as soon as it hit 360, got out, banked their profits, and said, "Thank you very much." The second is the precedent to the revolution that's taking place. And the third is, well, I'm sure the GameStop owners are laughing all the way and just loving the commotion, because now, for the first time in their life, the entire world knows them, and there's no such thing as bad publicity. So they must be loving
Free
it.
advertising.
Free advertising. They must be doing this And if it was all legal, it must be the best. It's definitely the best thing that's ever happened to them. Because look at the share price. It's still $200, even though the valuation is at $6.
Very interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sticking around for so long. And I'm so happy we could have this discussion. Remember to follow VR Digital Citizens Facebook group, Oh My Brains, and we will see you in 2 weeks' time. We've started doing this fortnightly. So the social and moral dilemma is only next week, Monday and Friday. And then Oh My Brains is this Thursday. Greek mythology is Sunday. And Awakened Awareness is Sunday. Ali, thank you so much for being here as well.
Thank you so much. It was really interesting. It was really awesome. Thank you all for being here.
And I'm going to be taking off mute. And you guys can stick around, have a chat. You can go to the Greek Taverna if you want. There's a nice portal on the top right side. And that's it. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you.